Welcome to the Wake to a Great Marriage cast. I'm Tony. This is LaRonda.
Hello.
We are in my sister's book, My Life Story by Sandra Kay Baugh Carlson.
And it's a good one. Tune in.
And so we left off on the question of where did your ancestors come from?
I really been wanting to listen to this one.
You thought I come from a monkey, didn't
I
you?
thought you come from monkeys.
That's what the world tells you anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Grandma Nettie Wilson Baugh was fascinated by genealogy. I wish she had access to Ancestry.com. Interviewing elderly family members and visiting cemeteries was the only way she could pursue her interest. Her research traced her Wilson family back to Virginia in the mid 1700s. She obtained a copy of a will made by the early Wilson ancestor Thomas Wilson. She also traced her her mom's family, Martha Kane Wilson, her husband's family, Willie and Emily Weddell Baugh, and my mother's family, Brent and Ada Trimble Tarter, to the mid 1800s. I admit that I caught some of Grandma's enthusiasm for the subject and have continued her research now that the information is available through the internet. I have built upon the research she started, which was invaluable. You have a copy of the research? I thought that, and Hazel took that, but anyway. Most of my ancestors came to this country from Germany and Britain before the Revolutionary War. I'm sure that some of them fought in that war. They started in Pennsylvania, migrated to Virginia, some of them by North Carolina, and followed Boone's Trail through the Cumberland Gap into Kentucky in the late 1700s. They settled in Wayne and Placer County, Kentucky, and my family has lived there ever since. My great-great-grandfather, Vincent Baugh, took his family to Texas in the late 1800s. They traveled by covered wagon, and he was carrying a flintlock rifle. My dad still owns that rifle. I guess I should have brought it down here to show you guys.
Oh, you should have.
Two of his daughters, Effie and Donnie, married local men in the Dallas area and settled on ranches there. He visited with them several times, and our family called them the Texas people.
They're the Texas people.
One of the cousins would call my grandma all the time, and my grandpa. But anyway, the story goes that two other daughters, Sarah and Allie, headed to California and were never heard of from again.
Oh no.
I would love to know the rest of their story. My inability to successfully pursue female siblings through genealogy has been frustrating. Not long after they left, his wife Elizabeth died, and Vincent and his youngest child, my great-grandfather Willie Baugh, returned to Kentucky, where they spent the rest of their lives in the Nancy area. So this is a picture of Charlene and I, which is Sissy, gather genealogy information with Grandma at one of the cemeteries. So there's Robert and Laura Kane. They died in 1909 and 1914, born in 1859 and 1854. You see how young Sissy is. Well, that's interesting. Charlene almost looks She's 6 years younger than Sissy, and she almost looks as old as she
Yeah,
does.
she does.
Here is Vincent and Elizabeth Baugh with their children. From left is Allie, Effie, Willie, Sarah, and Donnie. Vincent's father, Amos, died in the Civil War when Vincent was 14 years old.
Oh wow.
So this is the grandparents, the parents, and then the four daughters and one son. And we come from the one son. Yeah, I realized that. I always thought that Charlene was 6 years younger than you, and I was 6 years younger than Charlene. But I guess that's not the way it goes. But anyway, for some reason, I always thought that was the way you calculated it. But I've always been wrong. I realized it when I said it. The next question is, do you have a close relationship with cousins?
Oh yeah.
Speaking of Charlene and Aunt Hazel, we didn't mention Jerry. Hey, Jerry.
Hey, Jerry.
Because we lived only a few miles from both sets of grandparents, we spent a lot of time with my grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. Daddy Brent and Mammy Tartar had 15 children and 24 grandchildren on my mom's side of the family.
That's a bunch.
Yes, like I've been telling you guys, I still have trouble with some of their names.
Yeah.
like JB. JB Davenport, was that the name I was having trouble with the other day?
You couldn't remember.
But anyway, most of those cousins lived in Ohio and Indiana. Because I was local and we visited when they were there, I knew them all. On my dad's side of the family, Grandma and Grandpa had 2 children. I know all of them.
Yeah.
had 2 children, Dad and his sister, Hazel, who was 5 years older. Aunt Hazel and Uncle Leonard lived in Indianapolis, Indiana. Before their first daughter, Charlene, was born, I was the only child in the family.
Oh, my chat was that way, Sissy.
If we could have just kept it that way, right? So for 5 years, I received all the attention and consideration Uncle Leonard and considered Uncle Leonard my playmate. He was a good storyteller. I would sit on his lap and he would tell me stories. Oh, she's going to make me cry.
You always cry.
About imaginary characters such as Foot and Foot and Foot. I don't know if that's how many she has here, but that's the way I remember it. And Yardstick, one day, Foot said to Foot. Then was when I was older, he told me stories about his experiences as a soldier during World War II in Europe. And Hazel told me later that he had never told anyone else most of the stories he shared with me, which is true. He didn't share that with anybody else.
Yeah.
They stay with you.
Yes.
Charlene was born just before I turned 5. From the beginning, she was like a little sister to me. We drove to Indianapolis to visit them once a year. Uncle Leonard's job gave them 5 weeks of vacation time each year, and they spent all 5 weeks visiting us in Kentucky. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Can't wait for them to come back. And they came for 1 week, 5 times a year, and I lived for those visits. Before their arrival, I would look out the upstairs bedroom windows that overlooked the highway. When I saw their car slowing to turn in the driveway, I would run over the stairs shouting, "They're here! They're here!"
I can see Cece doing that.
I would pace the right of way and run with the car if they came in. Grandma told me a watch pot never boiled. Their son Jerry was born 5 years after Charlene. Okay, my calculation, and and my brother Tony was born 2 years later. Tony and Jerry were close in age and played together throughout their childhood. There was a large pond at Grandpa's farm in the valley just below the house. Uncle Leonard loved to fish. So Grandpa stocked the pond with bass, and Uncle Leonard spent most of his time there fishing. Charlene was a city girl and wasn't used to the smell and yuck of the barn and the fields during the rainy season. She was also afraid of the electric fence.
I blame her.
When we went to the pond to spend time with Uncle Leonard, I would carry her on my back through the barn. And when we came to an electric fence, she would lie down on the ground, and I would grab her legs and pull her under. See photo. And here's some of our beautiful Pole Hereford cattle in the background too.
Oh yeah.
The bull is standing there with two cows, and that's Charlene on the ground. Sissy's pulling her under the fence. I guess you gathered that part.
I love it. I love it.
When Aunt Hazel family visited, except for when I had to go to school, we spent every minute together. One day, I even took Charlene to school with me. We played together all day and we slept together at night. When we were small, we slept in bed with Grandma, but we slept in my dad's old room upstairs when we got older. It was like a slumber party every night.
Mm-hmm.
We played board games and pretend games using our imagination, exploring the farm. We read books. We enjoyed running full speed over the steep hill behind the pond in the winter. We went sledding down those hills in the snow. Neither of us was athletic, so we didn't play sports, and Charlene didn't care for television, so we didn't turn on the TV while she was there. During the summer, if produce in the garden needed harvesting, we all helped Grandma. Usually that meant shelling peas or stringing and breaking beans. Aunt Hazel, Grandma, Grandpa, Charlene, and I all sat on the front porch talking and working up beans. Mom was usually busy canning her own beans at home, and I am grateful that she managed without my help so I could spend that precious time with the others. Charlene and I had a love for making music in common. Grandma helped us both learn to play on her pump organ. We would sing duets and once sang a special at church. Our voices blended like sisters. Charlene became a piano teacher and has a pleasure of teaching many young people the joy of playing.
That's
The
great.
best part of our time together was the delicious food that Grandma prepared. She would cook for a week beforehand, making peas and cakes and prepping meals. Every meal was an event, and we sat at a table full of our favorite foods 3 times per day. And of course, we ate lots of perfect fried fresh fish that Uncle Leonard caught in the pond.
Yum.
Yes. When we became adults, Charlene and I lost touch for about 15 years until the internet came along and we could send emails. Since then, we have communicated regularly and visited each other's homes several times. Throughout the years, we have had a close and personal relationship, and we even did a Way to a Great Marriage cast in her dining
We
room.
did. That was
Yes,
so
we
much
did. That was
fun.
so much fun. Here
Yes.
is Grandma, Grandpa, Charlene, Jerry, Tony, and me. There we go. Okay, and so now I am caught up with where I was, to be honest. What are some stories about your brother's childhood?
Oh no.
I must have read that question. I was like, no, I don't want to read that.
I don't want to read that one.
When Tony was small, just 3 or 4 years old, he spent a lot of time outdoors exploring around the house and the barn. And I love to tell people when they ask me, "Were you raised in a barn?" I say, "Yes, I was."
Yep.
From the time I was 3 years old. He loved to play with the creatures and critters he found and was fearless in their pursuit. He would dive at the feet of a hen to grab her chicks in each hand while the hen was pecking him on the back. He always had his pockets full of treasures, and Mom instructed me to empty his pockets before he could come in to the house. One day he would pull out rocks, twigs, and feathers. One day, maybe I was trying to fly. Okay, build wings out of the twigs. I guess. Anyway, one day Tony pulled out of the bottom of his pocket a baby chick.
Oh no!
That was dead.
Oh no!
He learned the lesson to be gentle with the creatures and put them in his pocket. I thought I had like 3 or 4 in each pocket, but anyway.
Now you know.
He collected frogs and would put them in a wooden box and carry the box around with him. It was a vent box that Dad had built for the foundation vent.
Oh.
Yeah. One day, Dad was digging post holes to build a new fence around the house. Mom and I took Dad some refreshments and talked while Tony played around with one of his frogs. Then Dad resumed working and started chopping the sharp post hole digger into the hole he was making.
Oh, no.
Tony began to bawl and cry hysterically. He said, between sobs, "My frog!" I put it in the hole for safekeeping.
Oh no!
I can about point it out. It's about halfway between the house and the Henderson Lane down there in the front of the house. This is where he was working. Tony loves to fish. He had an old rod and reel that he played with constantly. Dad put a sinker at the end of the line where the hook would go, and Tony would cast his line anywhere, in the front yard, the field, and the pond. He became good enough to warrant a hook and started catching real fish. He was always a good fisherman. Yeah, I remember I used to say I caught this fish this big. I was like 4 years old, so it was like this big. It grew. As I grew, it kept growing. Of course, as typical for farm life, all of our pets were outside pets and none came into the house. Katie and Annabelle, what are you doing in here? We had a cat that was the best at catching mice. The best mother cat and the gentlest cat we ever had. One day, when Tony was about 8 years old, he came running into the house asking for help. He had been playing with the cat and fishing line Somehow the cat had gotten all tangled up in the
Oh,
fishing line and was so trapped it couldn't hardly move.
oh
I
no.
tried to make a leash with the fishing line, okay?
Oh no.
The
Poor,
cat didn't like it,
poor
so it got
cat.
like all tangled up in it. Mom and I tried to help, but the cat would try to bite and scratch us if we came near. We had to call Dad to come home from work to rescue the cat.
Oh no.
Dad got Tony a beagle hound, and the cat's what was the cat's name? It had a name. It was a black cat with like a white streak right here and a white underbelly.
Skunky.
Well, his son I called Mouse because it
Oh.
was gray. She had like a gray, a white, and a black kitten once.
Oh.
But Dad got Tony a beagle hound hunting dog, Jack.
Oh,
And
Jack.
when he was about 12 years old, he would take Jack rabbit hunting. He, okay. He occasionally shot a rabbit, but spent a lot of time hiking and exploring the woods, often trekking a couple of miles from home. Okay.
That sounds like you.
Even as a small child, Tony had a lot of freedom to explore his environment. Mom and I secretly kept an eye on him when he was small. About every 10 minutes, one of us would check on him and make sure he was safe. Most of the time, this entailed just looking out the window. He stayed within sight of the house until he was old enough to wander. And so here is my wooden box that I am me holding two chickens. Tony had chickens in this wooden box, and so that was actually it was a vent cover for the house. And then this is Tony playing with Jack, and what Jack apparently died in the winter, and they didn't tell me, and he just disappeared and went out of my mind, I guess. I had a different dog whenever I was 14,
Let's see.
but that's Jack. I must have been like 3 there or
You were
something,
just a little
3 or 4. Yeah, I remember we went to go pick out Jack, and I would pick out Jack every time, and the guy wouldn't let. He would be like, "No, he can't have that one." And then I go back, and they put it with litter, and I go back pick out the same one. And he finally gave up and let me have him. But anyway, he must not have been the runt of the litter. I guess he wanted to give me the runt of the litter. Why did he just say, "Here, you can have this one"?
Yeah, exactly. He was wanting you to think you were picking it out.
Oh, okay.
What's this
So that must have been. I must have got Jack as a replacement for you. That was my consolation prize for losing my sister.
What's say?
She said, "I didn't know about Jack's death. I wasn't there."
Oh.
Okay, so what is one thing you have done that surprised even you? I don't know what we were thinking, but when Holly was just about 7 years old, we decided to take her to uh, Havasu Falls in Havasupai Canyon, which is part of the Grand Canyon just west of Grand Canyon National Park. It was a daunting trip because it was an 11-mile hike from the top of the canyon to the Havasupai village. On the way back, half of the walk is up switchbacks that climb 1,800 feet in 2 miles to the top of the canyon. We knew Holly would never be able to make the hike, but we discovered we could rent horses with a Native American guide. The conditions in the canyon are primitive. The most common lodging was camping in a tent you carry in your backpack. However, the Havasupai have a no frills lodge, and we rented a room.
You got two things there.
We have Tim headed home from a soccer game. Uh,
Oh,
no, you had Jack when I was living there, but I had left by the time Jack died. Okay,
oh, okay.
right. He must have been kept at the barn or something because I'm thinking in like one of the milk parlor rooms, and I didn't see him that much. But anyway, Brian started hiking when Polly and I started riding down on horseback. I'm not a very good horsewoman, and Holly had no experience riding a horse. To make matters worse, she could not put her feet in the stirrups because the guide couldn't shorten the straps on Holly's horse. So she was just sitting up there holding on.
Oh my goodness.
However, Holly had a great attitude about the entire adventure. This is a great time for a cliffhanger.
No.
I'm just kidding. After we received the canyon, after we reached the canyon floor and walked our horses toward the village, I noticed Holly sliding off her horse. The horse had stopped, and she slid far enough that she was holding onto the saddle horn with both hands and dangling to the side of the horse. Her feet were only about half a foot off the ground. I coaxed her by saying, Holly, just let go. I got off my horse and helped her. She mounted and we started again. When we reached the lodge, we were grateful to find a room with a bathtub. I had brought along Epsom salt, and Holly and I soaked in the cold bath until Brian arrived. They didn't have hot water. The next day, we hiked the 2 miles to the falls. We had to climb about 10 feet down a rope ladder at one point. Again, Holly was a great trooper. Our reward was swimming in the pools before the beautiful falls on that hot day. I was grateful that Holly was a good sport about our discomforts and was cooperative in every way. We only stayed a couple of days. Then Brian hiked out while Holly and I rode horses with the Havasupai guide to the top of the canyon. It was a great adventure. Holly and I are Havasu guide. And there's a couple of dogs too. I wouldn't want to have dogs around that horse.
I know.
And so then, here is
Oh,
Brian and
wow.
Holly at Havasu Falls.
Look at there. That's gorgeous.
The next section is, did you have any pets when you were a child? I grew up on a farm in south central Kentucky. We didn't have pets that were loose inside the house. There were outside watchdogs, cats who kept the field mice under control, cows, horses, chickens, geese. When I was about 6 years old, I had a parakeet in a cage for about a year. Of course, I had goldfish at different times over the years. One day, I found a small turtle in the woods. It was only about 3 inches in diameter. I brought it home and we kept it in a box and fed it. When we went on vacation to Indianapolis, we took it with us. When our neighbor friend Debbie saw the turtle and wanted me to share it with her, she kept it at her house for a week, and I had custody for a week.
She had custody.
We took turns. One day, when the turtle was at Debbie's house, someone put its container on top of the refrigerator and to get it out of the way. It fell off the refrigerator
Oh
and the
no.
fall cracked the turtle's shell. It didn't live long after that.
Oh.
At about that same time, Dad found an abandoned nest of baby birds. We kept them in a cage in the backyards and fed them until they could fly. I didn't want to turn them loose, but Dad convinced me they would be happier to be free. When I was 12 years old, my uncle John Tarter, Mom's oldest brother, offered to give me a baby pig if Dad
Oh.
would buy one of her siblings as a companion. So I acquired two pigs that I called Venus and Mars. Dad and I arranged for them to stay in the back room of the milk parlor where Dad had milked cows and fenced in an adjacent area outside for them to run. It was my job to keep them fed and watered twice a day. The feed was easy to scoop out of a bag, but I had to carry water in a bucket from the pond. In the winter, when the pond froze over, I had to take an axe and to make a hole in the uh, ice large enough to scoop water into the bucket. When I had Venus and Mars, they were my friends and confidants. After giving them their feed and water, I often hung around and told them about things bothering me. She read Scarlet's Web, didn't she?
Yes.
they would
Old Charlotte was there.
they would look at me and grunt in sympathy. In the spring, they both were going to have piglets, and before the
Oh.
piglets were born, we sold them to a man who wanted to add them to his pig farm. He assured me they would have a long and happy life. Uh, was his name Zucker? Dad let
Mr.
me,
Zucker.
Mr. Zucker.
Yeah.
Dad let me have the profit to put in my savings account at the bank. When I was small, we had dairy cattle, and Dad milked the cows twice daily. I a refrigerated truck stopped by every day and picked up the fresh milk. Sometimes, after Dad had attained more responsibility at Crane Plumbing Company, he sold the dairy cattle and purchased Hereford cattle, red with white faces, which were less labor intensive. His
Right.
first Herefords were registered polled Herefords. Polled means they don't have horns. He and Mom gifted me with a calf from the first calves that were born. That calf grew up and started having calves of her own. Every year, as we raised the calf and sold them, Dad would give me the check for my calf to put in my savings account at the bank. They carried on the tradition also with Tony, and we had a gift from Mom and Dad every year for our savings. I didn't get attached to animals I knew would be sold and killed for food. I was tender-hearted and didn't have the temperament for that sort of thing. My character became apparent when I was 3 years old and my grandmother made the mistake of introducing me to the Thanksgiving turkey. I was so
Oh
upset when I
no.
discovered that turkey
Oh.
would be the main course for Thanksgiving dinner that Grandma took that turkey back and got another one. Soon after Dad and Grandpa brought in squirrels they had killed while hunting. Upon seeing the dead squirrels, I cried so hard and seemed to traumatized that Dad never went hunting again.
Oh.
He he said my reaction took all the pleasure out of it.
Yeah.
I
He's like,
could eat meat
oh,
as long as I wouldn't acquainted with the animal when it was still alive. I watched
yes.
Grandma kill a chicken for dinner, and I enjoyed eating quail, rabbit, and squirrels, but I could never have been a hunter, and it would have been difficult to kill the chicken myself.
Right. Me too.
I had always wanted a dog companion that would live with us in the house. When Holly was 10 years old, we bought it. We thought it would be good for her to have a dog around. So we went to the pound and picked up Squirt. He was a
Oh.
timid little mutt that looked like his ancestors had some poodle and terrier. Squirt turned into my constant companion. He gave us a lot of love, and we enjoyed 13 years. He was part of our family. And see Squirt's photo below. And I remember Squirt. He was out there when I went to visit her in 1986.
He's a cutie, sissy.
Yeah. And so, once again, our time has lapsed. It's actually
That goes too
past
fast.
time. I know we probably should do a 3 hour, like,
A book reading. Sissy's book reading.
read the whole book.
Yeah.
Do a 3 hour one. Let's see what we have here. Oh, I might as well. I can skip ahead and show you. Here, she talked about Grandma teaching us the pipe organ. She actually has pictures of it in a later chapter. So I'll show you in this chapter, and then we can go back. Sissy said no. I think 30 minutes is good. The pipe organs is the refinished one. The other one is in the bedroom. That's the piano we all learned how to play piano on. And me and Sissy playing organ.
Uh-huh.
I thought I'd look through and look at the pictures to see what's coming up that I need to be aware of.
Because he's going to cry.
Right. Okay, that's where we run into it. It's the end of the book. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. With that, that will conclude tonight's Waycast. I don't have the speaker in here, but anyway, that's all right.
Well, and, we kind of like to say why would we be reading Sissy's book on the way to a great marriage? And it's because she talks about her marriage, how she met her husband. She talks about their ancestors and where they came from. And for me, as Tony's wife and Cece's sister-in-law, it makes a way to a great marriage is knowing things about each other. So that's the reason we're reading. I've sung a lot of my mom's songs, about 110 of them so far. And and Tony's read his mom's book. Now he's reading Sissy's book. It all is family, you all. That's even if you're single, learn from these things because it's very valuable what you can learn from each other and from each other's siblings and grandparents. So that's the reason we're reading the book.
Well, she talked about a savings account. You don't see kids
Yes.
being taught that anymore. It's like with my kids, it was you take them to the store and they spend every last penny they
Right.
have, and they don't save any of it. My parents taught me to save,
Yeah, mine did too.
and we want to try to teach our grandkids to save. Sissy said that uh, she said, "Women, I love your hair." Uh,
A
Woman.
woman.
Oh,
Who said that?
uh,
Sissy?
it is
Tim?
Tim.
Oh.
Tim, I love your hair.
Oh, mine? Is
Yes.
that what he said? Well, thank you, Tim. I love
Yeah,
you.
she has it fixed like I like it today for
Yes.
some reason.
I crunched it.
Usually she doesn't. Must be harder to do or something. I don't know.
I
But
don't know.
anyway, Tim can vouch. Grandma set up a savings account for him and for all of the grandkids,
Yeah.
and we need to teach them to save and to and those kind of things. Sissy told me about a couple that would take pictures of the toys that the grandparents would give their kids for Christmas and send it to them, showing the kids donating them to Goodwill.
Oh no.
And said, if you want to give our kids something, give them money that they can put in a savings account.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
today was Aubrey's birthday, and we're gonna start her, and I talked to her all about it. She,
Right.
you know that.
And Chad was like, she has enough toys as it is.
Yes, please, no more
You know,
toys.
but that's the way kids are. They've
Yeah.
got, you can go to Goodwill and buy a house full of toys
Yes.
and not spend, that they're happy with a box.
Yeah.
I used to play with the Christmas tree box
All kids
for
did.
a week.
We played with the refrigerator box. Mom and Dad got a new refrigerator. Me and Dwayne played with.
Go
Roll
to
down the hill.
Yeah, go to an appliance store
Yeah.
and get the refrigerator box.
Yes,
out
we
back.
did.
Let them play with that.
We had a ball in it.
Get them off their phones. I mean, that's about the only toy they want today is
Yeah.
a phone. They don't even play with toys if you give them to them.
No. Our grandson Peter is just a year, and he already is wanting to. If I call him Mimi, he's like looking at me already.
But and then taking them hiking. Well, how young they started me out. They turned me loose at
Me
three
too.
or four out
I
on
was
the
in a
farm.
Yeah,
These hover parents would freak out today. With that sort of thing. I mean, it wasn't like they weren't watching me. It was
Right.
Sissy was
every 10 minutes.
It was going out, seeing where I was.
Yeah,
But, it was a dangerous place, but I learned to survive.
you did.
And I think kids miss that. And you're right. There's a lot there that we learn. I learned to fish. We didn't tell our fishing story, Sissy. I remember me and Sissy went fishing one time, and I caught 3 fish at once.
What?
They had these 2 hook things.
Oh yeah.
There was 2 bluegills on one hook and one on the other. We were catching so many fish that day. I bet me and her caught 50 fish.
Wow.
And
did y'all fry 'em up?
yeah, we usually did that. Usually, Grandpa was good about. Uncle Leonard would catch them, and Grandpa would
Fillet 'em?
no, he wouldn't fillet them. He'd scale them, and
Oh.
we didn't know how to fillet them. That would have been nice.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
We picked the bones.
Yes. Well, we did that when I was a kid too. And you ate cornbread just in case you got one hung in your neck. We ate
really?
cornbread. Mhm.
Oh,
That's the reason you have fish and hush puppies.
And then my grandpa Brent Tarter, and he claimed he swallowed all the bones.
Chewed them up.
They were all gone. Who knows what he did with them?
Untelling.
But anyway, so it's just the things. Well, and then the stories Sissy told. I remember you catching 3 fish on one hook.
Oh.
Grandpa was gone by then, so we took them home and we cleaned them and fried them up. Well, that's not the time I remember it was. I was thinking Grandpa was still alive. I thought it was probably like I was still in school, like in the early 80s. But anyway, okay, Daddy Brent would hide all the fish bones under his plate.
I figured it was something like that.
I thought it was in his napkin. But anyway.
I figured it was something like that. Because Tony had said one time that he chewed all the fish bones up. Like,
And then the
really?
stories of Uncle Leonard. Uncle Leonard was really a kid. He was like Jerry. He was a kid's person.
Yeah. Kids
he
love
really liked. No, he really liked kids.
Oh, he really liked
I
kids.
think, and so he would tell us, foot and foot, and all these stories that would be nice if we had them all written down.
Oh, I wish you could. That's neat. That would actually make a really good kids book, you know.
And then he taught us how to play poker on the front porch. Shh! Don't tell Grandma and Hazel. We'll get in trouble for playing poker for. I think it was for corn. And then we
For
would
corn.
play. Yeah, or something like that.
Those are such good memories. They really are. I love it.
Right. And
Yeah,
so,
I have
well,
memories
spending
like that.
with your cousins. I mean, that's one of the things
Yeah.
I guess is missing probably today too, is people grow so far apart. Of course,
I know.
I guess you have that. Jackson and Gunner and
Hopi.
Hopi
Mhm.
are close.
They are.
They live close enough that they're going to be like that.
We were at Aubrey's birthday party today, and Jackson come over and what did Sissy say?
Uncle Leonard taught us how to play poker with rook cards.
Oh.
Yes, it was rook cards.
Rook cards.
Grandma would not allow playing cards in the house.
Oh.
So we had to learn with rook cards. Yes.
Gotcha.
We didn't have regular playing cards. Yeah, Grandma would not allow them in her house. She was one of those. She never cut her hair.
Right.
In her life.
Yeah.
And so she was probably a little
kind of like holiness
on that side.
Yeah.
Well, I have a feeling the church that was across the street that they went to for a while but they primarily went to Chesterview and White Oak, which were Baptists, but
right.
The little church that it was a schoolhouse.
Right.
I have a feeling it must have been a little on the legalistic side.
Right. Legalistic side.
Well, her parents didn't allow her to dance either.
Oh.
They saw them skipping rope. She was the oldest, all the kids from the field, and they came in from the field and spanked Grandma because they thought that they were all dancing.
And she was skipping rope?
Yeah.
Oh no, poor Grandma.
So, but
poor Grandma.
Kids went to White. I only visited other churches during revivals. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how a lot of communities visited.
Anyway, that's what I brought. I brought my plates home today. White Oak Baptist Church. It was from 1801. In 1953 was the year that Mom and Dad got married. When these plates
that's their anniversary
were
plate.
made. We weren't allowed to dance either. And so I've been a member of 2 of the first 3 churches in Kentucky. Apparently this was one of them. White Oak was one of the first 3 churches in Kentucky, along with Forks and Dix River.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the other one is, unless I go visit it, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I guess we need to close.
that was a wonderful podcast, babe.
You think so?
Yeah.
I
loved it.
I hope they enjoyed it as much as
I hope you all enjoyed it. We sure have. We sure have.
Don't break your arm, honey. Patting yourself on.
No, I wasn't patting ourselves on the back. I was just talking about memories.
I know.
Yeah, it wasn't like anything we did.
Okay.
It's just your memories.
So, we finally broke the 11,000 likes. 11,000 thumbs ups and likes.
Thank you guys.
11,000. We need one more comment. We'll have 500 comments.
Come on, sissy, give us one more comment.
If you're tired of me reading books, you need to ask questions. Is all I gotta say. Do I need to mention any names? She's not watching anyway.
No, she's not.
We have 715 subscribers, so subscribe not only here but also on Rumble.
Wow, who's ready to rumble? Sissy gave us another one.
Have a great night. Love you, Sissy.
Woo! Love you, Sissy. Mwah.
There was 415,700 views.
Wow.
And so far, and so share 3,500. What I put on the Waycast, at the top of the Waycast, I've pinned against all odds.
Yes.
I think it's a great evangelistic tool, so I encourage you to share that with somebody that you are thinking of right now that doesn't know Jesus as their personal Savior. Pray before you send it that they'll be receptive to it and that they'll watch the entire thing.
Yes.
And so with
share.
that,
See, did we do all of them? Hit the notification, ding, ding, ding. So when we go live, you will know when we're on.
And thank you, Sissy, or Tim for the like. I don't know which, but
Thank you.
with that, we say
Good night.
Until we meet again. Adios, au revoir. I'll be the same till then.
And oh, it's always sweet sorrow to part.
you'll know you'll always remain in my heart. Good night, sleep tight. The life of us is the wish and the prayer that everything comes true. And now till we meet again. Adios, au revoir, I'll be the same. Good night.
We love you.
And with that, we say good night. And don't ever forget, you are truly loved. We love you, Tim.
Love you, Tim.
Through the years.
I don't know what face you sent
Well,
me,
we
but
brought you
love
some
you.
pleasant
We'll see you later.
memories.
Bye.
Now from all of our